Alteration of a non-conforming use of the zoning bylaws, 336 Cambridge Street. Lynn Yu is the applicant.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of June 6, 2019, as requested by the applicant's attorney in an email dated May 16, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to take items 7C and 7D out of order and together for discussion purposes.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Item 7C is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.3.2.6, outdoor storage of supplies and equipment incidental to permitted uses, subject to requirements for location, lighting, screening, fencing, cover, and safety precautions of the zoning bylaw, 376 Cambridge Street. The Granite Place Incorporated is the applicant. Item 7D is a discussion, application for approval of a minor engineering change, 376 Cambridge Street. 376 Cambridge Street LLC is the applicant.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment?
Yes, I was
Because
going to ask if
there's
you
a
would
lot
like
of
to.
interest in this.
Yes, thank you.
There has been a lot of delay. A lot of the initial delay was they submitted a special permit, they needed a minor engineering change. That took a couple of months to get, so, but that was ready last meeting, but they weren't ready to move forward. Anyway, there's, I just want to let people know that that the town and the building department is working on taking some action with some concerns that are out there. And we, Josh is meeting with a team next week internally, and we were just talking that even if, we might even suggest having a subcommittee meeting before the June 6th meeting, because there are so many of the neighbors concerned. So with that, if anyone's watching, we've taken some emails from the last meeting. We have some emails from people who stopped by tonight, but anyone else who wants to be notified if we do have a subcommittee meeting, email planning@burlington.org with your contact.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to
Madam Chair,
continue
I'm
this.
sorry, what do you mean when they're not ready? Is that the applicant's not ready? Or that they filed and paperwork?
There's some information that we don't have that we kind of need to move forward.
That we don't have?
That that the application doesn't have, so.
If the application is deficient or incomplete,
So how do we take the application if it's incomplete? You know what I mean, do we take incomplete
you
applications?
take it, and then you decide you need more information, and you ask them for it, and they don't come up with it fast enough.
Shouldn't
Most
even get on here
applicants
until-
turn around within days. This has just been, so internally, we are working with the applicant to figure out what's the best course of action to ensure that we remedy this situation with the neighborhood as quickly as possible, whether it's through through the planning board or through a different department. So that's, it's not an open hearing, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but I just wanted to let neighbors know that we are proactive. There has been a lot of delay. We understand they're frustrated, and we are proactively trying to alleviate the concerns and the activities that are negatively impacting the neighborhood.
Okay,
Thanks.
Is that it for that?
Yes.
You want a motion?
yes, please.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of June 6, 2019, as requested by the applicant's attorney in an email dated May 13, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah,
6-0.
we are. Well, we didn't have a chair for you, and Josh brought one over.
You brought the one that's 6 down.
Nobody even said somebody's missing.
Yeah, one of them keeps collapsing.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to take item 7E out of order.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Item 7E is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a site plan, 61 Center Street. Town of Burlington is the applicant.
Madam Chair, if there are no questions, I make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of July 18th, 2019, as requested by the applicant in an email dated May 13th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Next is citizens' time. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question or make a comment on something that is not on our agenda, they can come forward now. Seeing no one, we will move on to announcements.
Announcements. As you may have noticed, I'm kind of uncharacteristically informal today, but I did spend my entire morning at the Mary Cummings Park, which was great, with the trustees and with Northeastern to go over all the conditions of approval with Northeastern, most specifically all the screening from the park, the work in the park, the agreements between the trustees and Northeastern, the tree placement. We literally had balloons and we're walking around the park trying to figure out the best placement for the best screening. But the trustees are moving forward. They did get all their funding. They hired a landscape architect. They went through a public bid process, and they now have a landscape architect on board as of last week to do a design for the park and some other measures to kind of bring the meadow back and to do some kind of welcoming around where the soccer field and the parking lot is down there. Anyway, it's all good news. They are looking to have a public session in early June. It hasn't landed yet, but it'll probably be, if they can get the Grandview Farm, they'll do it there and bring in the landscape architect as well as the trustees to talk about their plans for the Mary Cummings Park. So I'll know more as days go by, but that was exciting, and I think we should all be really pleased that the trustees have taken the leadership in managing the park. So,
Madam Chair, it's really good news to hear that they got their funding. I thought they were going to have more of a struggle, but good.
they got their funding. They did get a state park grant for over $350,000 that really put them over the mark, so they were able to really get going on the project.
Great.
So that's terrific news. Other than that, the community health fair is from 10 to 1 at the Burlington High School. There are a lot of vendors that'll be there. This Saturday. Oh, sorry, I meant to say Saturday, May 18th. This Saturday. Also, the special town meeting, which is will be right in the tail end of town meeting that's been going on Monday, Wednesday. Special town meeting will start Monday. During that time, we will take the small cell wireless items up, the general bylaw as well as the zoning bylaw. So that should be at the beginning of the meeting. So if anyone wants to attend those items, and then they'll be going back to the regular warrant, which ended last night at, I think we'll begin with Article 22 after the special town meeting items conclude. The Sculpture Park Committee is meeting next Tuesday, is May 21st at 8 a.m. I will let anyone in Sculpture Park talk more about that. I just wanted to announce the meeting.
The meeting is going to be in the basement meeting room at the Town Hall Annex.
Memorial Day, town offices are closed.
Annex or the regular town hall, this
The
building?
annex.
Oh, okay.
Annex.
Thank you.
Our municipal vulnerability preparedness grant, we have is it our final?
Yeah.
Final public listening session, Wednesday, May 29th at 6 right here in the main hearing room. Do you want to say a sentence about that?
Yeah, just the consultant is going to give an overview of the draft findings report that they put together from our community workshop a couple months ago. So we will be here in this room, and you'll be giving an overview of the report.
And we are pleased to announce the master plan events are back. We will be hosting a master plan meeting including specifically the housing and town center elements, which we have not had a chance to get to. We were holding 6 to 7 p.m. before the planning board. Our planning board agendas are about to get pretty lengthy, and we thought that it might be better just to have a standalone meeting. It'll be at Grandview Farm on June 5th from 6 to 8. And again, focusing on housing in the town center, but since it's been a little while, we'll probably definitely do a little bit of an overview as well of kind of where we are and some recommendations. And the last item that has to do with one of the items you continued is 61 Center Street Subcommittee meeting will be June 12th at 6 p.m. on site to discuss parking at the Human Services Building if anyone would like to attend.
Wait, I thought that was a different date. Okay, so that's the 12th.
It's Wednesday.
Okay,
Wednesday.
I suggest we be there, because if we're not, we may end up getting
Wednesday, June
another take it or leave it, which we don't want. So I think we ought to get there and
So we'll send reminders closer
Get
to
our
the
own
date,
order.
but wanted
Thank
to
you.
get that on the calendar.
Thank you. All
Can I
right.
jump in on an sort of announcement, but I'd rather do it at the beginning of the meeting, at the end?
Sure.
out of sheer frustration of trying to watch some of our meetings on BCAT, I've been corresponding with, I found the engineer, Rob Zahora, who's explained how these microphones work and don't work. There's some fancy word for them, but basically it means unless it's pointed right at your mouth, doesn't work.
Unidirectional.
And when the meeting starts, the folks at BCAT adjust the volume. So if some of us have it close and some of us have it far away, it works for whoever happens to be speaking when they adjust it. So we all need basically the same distance. We all need to speak roughly the same volume. Some of us can't be slight and whisper. And unfortunately, the microphones up at the presentation table are identical. And so if there's 2 or 3 people, if there's 3 people there, it doesn't work well because it's not pointed right. So there probably should be different type of microphones there. But I've, from my own experience and having heard from many people, people are absolutely frustrated that they tune in and want to hear what's going on at meetings, and they can't hear. So, we have to do something. One of my theories is because we've all got books, it's hard to get the microphone close. BCAT doesn't own the microphones. Town Hall does. BCAT owns what's behind that wall. These are, he says they're 18 inches, but it doesn't look like that to me. If we had longer microphones so we could have the head of it closer to us while we have the books in front of us, and most committees have books, then the folks at home are paying on average $5 a month to get BCAT, whether they listen to it or not. They're not getting their $5 worth. So
Did he say how close we should be to the mic?
this says 12 to 18 inches.
Oh,
Well, I'm gonna
mine-
suggest-
If everyone's 12, what does yours say?
Mine doesn't say anything.
12 to 18.
12
This
to
says
18,
12
yeah.
to 18 inches.
Right, but if they're
I
adjusting it,
don't, if this is 18 inches away, nobody's going to hear us.
Jack, I don't have a problem when I watch the meetings. Are you talking about just the planning board meetings or every meeting from other boards as well?
I tried to watch the Board of Appeals last week, and it was tough when it started, but because I was corresponding with Rob Zahora at that time, he called into BCAT and had them tweak the volume up.
well, now that it's been explained to us, and they're adjusting the volume based on the first person who spoke, that was me. So everybody look where my microphone is and follow me. Let's move on.
Madam Chair, can I just make one other comment?
Yes.
I'm sitting here, and tell me, because I'm not as young as I used to, look at the last meeting, the last microphone on the left. Is that not longer than my little microphone?
Yes.
It's a different mic
It
altogether.
looks different,
Yeah,
yes.
well, why,
Well, maybe it's.
I got a good
one of
mind
the
to go
old
over and
ones.
unplug it and see, maybe if we had a microphone like that. Keep going on with the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
Madam
gonna move on
Chair,
with the
I don't
meeting.
think you can undo them, Paul. They're
two
hardwired.
Yes,
Just 2 quick announcements.
That's certainly longer.
your nameplate is not near you. There
Oh,
you go. Thank
I
you.
can't read it when it's up there. Number one, I noticed today there were
They're the same ones out. no.
former Fire Chief Herbie Crawford passed away. He was quite elderly, if I am correct, Joe. My
Yeah.
son, right, in his 90s.
Yeah, he was in
anyways,
his
right?
90s, yeah.
Yep. But anyways, I thought that was worth expressing our condolences to the family. And also the 40B that is on Cambridge Street, Corporate Drive, whatever they're calling it now. I kind of
I
forgot
think
what.
it's the residences at Corporate Center.
Corporate
Last time I
Center,
saw
the
it.
residents or the reserves at Corporate Center or whatever, they're available for people who wish to put an application in. Applications are available on the Board of Selectmen's website. If you go on their homepage, Board of Selectmen, on the left-hand side, you'll see a list of things, and it says affordable housing. If you click on that, all the information is there.
Great, thank you, Ernie.
There,
And they're due in by the 22nd, which is next week.
Okay,
I don't know if it's, okay,
okay.
anyhow.
Thank you.
You're
May I ask a question about that? Are they going to have a grand opening?
I don't know yet.
Okay, the other questions that I get asked all the time, are those condos, are they rentals, are they
Apartments.
both?
They're
Rentals.
rentals right now.
They're all rentals. Okay, thank you. because people are looking for condos.
Just one last thing, kind of going to Member Kelly's comments. We did get an email on Monday of very, very, very sad, troubling news that Noelle, who has been our wonderful, wonderful recording clerk, has family obligations and a very new little baby, and nighttime meetings are not ideal. So she had given us notice of her resignation. So we emailed back and said that she's the most terrific recording secretary we've ever had. And if she wants to do our minutes from remotely, that we'd be okay with that. If she needed extra time, that we would also be okay with that, and to have her think about kind of what she wants to, what will work for her. And she did come back and say that she will, in the interim, at least, do our minutes remotely until we can either find a replacement or find a workable agreement that will meet her schedule. But you guys, a lot of you have been doing this a lot longer than I have, but in all the time I've been here, it's very hard to get a recording clerk that understands how to not take transcript minutes and boil down really complicated topics into really getting the gist of the discussion.
She does a great job, so thank you, Noelle, for sticking with us a little while longer. We'll hope we can find a way to keep you.
That
But
makes
speak
Jack's
into your
comments-
microphone
Yeah,
so
that makes
she can
Jack's
hear
comment
us.
about the mic all the more timely.
That's right, very much so.
And we should give her the phone number, so if she's watching and can't hear, she can call and say, speak into the microphone, stupid.
All right, we have no legal notices or non-approvals, or administrative matters, so we're going to move on to matters of appointment. Our first item is item 7B, a continued public hearing, application for approval of a definitive subdivision plan, 108 Muller Road. Edward and Elena Ivitskaya are the applicants. Welcome, and please state your name for the records. We know who you are, but we need to do that.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Thomas Murphy, representing Mark Petro and his wife Renata, who are also in the audience here with me.
Just as a matter of interest, the most difficult person to hear at the Board of Appeals meeting the other night was Tom Murphy.
Oh, no.
So either speak up or move the microphone closer.
Your microphone's probably too far away.
That's by design, Jack.
I figured.
That's a loyally move.
Just before you start, Tom, to Ernie's point, Herbie Crawford was 96 years old.
Was he 96? Wow.
And his brother Andy, I knew from a while ago, he lived in Winchester. He
Right.
was into his 90s as well when he passed away as well.
He was
Good
the father of the
genes.
good.
Yeah, good genes, good farmer, they were farmers' genes, I think.
Tom?
So, Madam Chair, as the board, I think, is probably aware, we've been in here several times over the past few months. This is a subdivision plan at 108 Muller Road, looking to split a large one-family parcel into two single-family parcels. Variance was obtained by the Board of Appeals back in the fall for frontage, and we're before this board on a subdivision approval. The ongoing issue from the get-go has been the access to the proposed new house. Again, the board is aware, there's a 15-foot right-of-way that runs from Muller Road about 800 feet back to the existing home. One other house along that 800-foot right-of-way that also uses that driveway. It's a 15-foot right-of-way, it's probably only 11 feet, maybe at best, paved, so it's clearly not an optimal way of egress. If two cars are coming at opposite directions at the same time, it's a problem. And there's been a concern expressed by the board from the beginning about putting another house on to share that right-of-way. So at our last meeting, we proposed, because there's a right-of-way that continues out to Cormier Road that's actually 40 feet wide, so there's plenty of room to maneuver with that. Last time in, we proposed bringing a driveway from Cormier Road to service the existing house on Muller Road, so that when the new house gets built, there's still only two sharing the long driveway, and the existing house would now use the Cormier Road driveway. However, when we've been discussing it, there was a joint staff meeting, department head meeting earlier in the week, and the concern was that there's still the opportunity for three houses to be using that existing right-of-way, because that's the way So the concern about overloading the right-of-way continued even with the solution with the driveway from Cormier. You've come up, and I frankly thank staff for their assistance with this. And we've checked with our engineer, Al Nelson, and he says that it would work as well, essentially by adjusting the lot lines and flipping the new house to the left of the existing home as you look at it, instead of on the right where it was proposed to be, and then running that driveway from Cormier into the new home, but it would only use the new home. The new home wouldn't have access to the existing 15-foot right-of-way, so there's no longer a danger of that being overburdened. It doesn't connect with the existing right-of-way, so the cut-through isn't an issue, which is what the safety departments were concerned about. And according to Mr. Nelson, in doing some quick calculations, there's enough of an envelope there to construct a new house within the zoning requirements of setbacks, and there's a 40-foot no-build line off the wetlands that we have to take into consideration and all of that. So there's a lot of moving parts, but they seem to all fit into place. And the end result would be that clients and their new baby would get to build their new home, would not add any additional traffic to the existing right-of-way, which, like I said, was a concern from the beginning, and they will be able to access their house by going out to Cormier Road with a driveway there. We had initially, last time in, talked about a gravel driveway. And the fire department preferred pavement just because they have heavy equipment and, so if this is going to be the primary or the only means of access to the new home, my clients would prefer it to be paved anyway. Means that we're going to have to go back to the Board of Health with our drainage calcs, because then they have to reconfigure any drainage issues. We're already on their agenda for their next meeting. I have a subcommittee set up with them on the 21st, so I'm confident we can get them what they need and get whatever input that they want to offer. So it would be a paved 15-foot, or if I don't know if there's any flexibility in the width of it, but right now, it's a 15-foot driveway, essentially, running from Cormier Road to the new lot. And that, in a nutshell, is where we're at. We've tried to do our best to try to address all of the concerns the boards have brought up, and this seems to be a pretty good solution. But I'm obviously available to answer questions or concerns.
Thank you, and I want to thank our planning director, because she came up with this plan, and I think it's ingenious, and I don't know why none of us thought of it before, but it's a great way to accommodate this family and not add additional traffic to that very long and treacherous driveway.
The Petros had looked at that initially. There's a pond
Yes.
just over the line, and so they...
Calling it waterfront property.
It is waterfront. You can get a boat now. So they had looked at it, but it's not optimal, but clearly
Kristen said
perfection should not get in the way of satisfactory results. So,
between the two trees.
again, I echo your thanks and your, to the planning staff.
Okay,
They were very helpful.
thank you. Kristen, did you have anything you wanted to add before I turn it over to the board?
I did. So the one thing I forgot to bring with me is Attorney Murphy took a picture, and I actually went out there with John Keeley today, and took a picture of where this drive comes in on Cormier. So right now, there's a drive that comes in and splits into two lots very quickly, similar to what you just talked about last week with Mill Street. If you look at the iPad, that's Ernie's iPad going around, the driveway location, there's two very nice trees that you can see in the photo. The driveway would come in and go, and hopefully, we've conditioned it to go through those two trees. It should be wide enough. If we say 15 and the trees are 14, make it 14, make sure we can keep those really nice trees. And then it'll veer off to the left. So I just wanted, and I apologize for not printing it out, but thank you, Ernie, for.
No, I think it will actually make a lovely entrance with those two very
Yeah,
nice trees on either side.
and those are two, actually, those are two, hold on, I'll find it in a second. I have the little house, house footprints, so you can kind of see that it'll make sense. But anyway, so
Yeah, that should be enough room.
three houses off the existing drive. We've talked about it for, was it third or fourth? I don't know. I feel like we've been talking about it for months. There was never really a high comfort level with it. The bump outs, conservation started to have concerns. Even with the bump outs, could we pass? It's, 800 feet from Muller Road to this site. You have the existing house and you have the smaller house about halfway down. That's what it is now. It's not in front of us. If we keep it that way, that's what it is. And then there was this house, and with the other option that we talked about Tuesday at the Development Coordination meeting, to bring in the driveway from Cormier, but still be able to keep the 3 access points. And, was it realistic? Would we be using it? Would it actually minimize the trips on the narrow roadway? So we took a look at it and said, is there a different way that will not further impact the 15-foot wide, or the 11-foot, the existing Muller Road access, provide for, not have a cut-through, not provide a cut-through with fire and police we're adamantly against, provide for connections to this house that are not 800 feet down the road, and have kind of a nice entrance. I mean, and we talked about internally, if you're a builder building a house, the Cormier entrance is really nice. But it is a tricky lot, but the lot they were looking at is a tricky lot. So I don't know, just looking at kind of pros and cons of both, and so that's why we said, okay, I don't know if we're gonna get there with the layout we had before, and just taking a look at some alternatives that I think would work well and solve all the issues that have come up. As I mentioned, I went out with John Keeley today to take a look at it. There's a lot of things and there's a lot of conditions in here that need to overall be determined. The Board of Health drainage conditions, we can add those. Where our authority is the access and the lotting, their authority is drainage. I don't think any of us are gonna have issues of their drainage design that they choose, so we've conditioned that in there. We've conditioned that they have to bring the drive-in as easterly as possible, like easterly on the new lot, so you have the most non-connected piece between what exists already at 108 Muller and what will be the connection drive here. And also to, if there's boulders or rocks or plantings or something they can put in for now to ensure that, to deter people from even if it's grass, to make sure no one drives over, to try to make it a cut-through. What were the other kind of main points? Then, what else was there?
Where's north on this? Doesn't have a,
North is on the big plan, north, so, north is top of the, it's actually almost, north is top of the plan, east,
Okay.
northeast, west is as
Yeah.
cardinal
On
directions.
this one, it shows north
okay,
that way.
good.
So we need, Al Nelson took a look at it today. We did get an email that, because we wanted to make sure that if they did change around the lotting plan, that we could meet the upland wetland breakdown, which we can. And other than that, I think overall, it's a better layout. We don't have any more perfect square flat lots in Burlington, so. But I think overall for the issues that we have for access and emergency service, this solves a lot of problems, so.
Okay, thank you, Kristen.
That's all, thank you.
Not to-
I have a strange feeling that Ernie would like to start us off.
Yeah, not to throw a wrench into everything, but are the two houses, the two people who live in the houses on Cormier Road aware of your change?
Well, we're not changing anything as far as they're concerned. The driveway's going right where it was gonna go. The only change is in the back.
Right, on the Cormier Road side. Originally, it was, when you came to us with the subdivision, you were going to enter it from Muller Road. So even if these people got notice of that,
Well,
they
but
wouldn't.
the original plan showed the right-of-way going all the way through.
Yeah,
When we talked about it at the beginning, we said we could come either way. We prefer Muller Road, so that's what we kind of focused on with our initial discussions. But the notice that went out to the original plan showed the right-of-way going all the way through. It's also contained in both of the deeds of each of those people, and it's on
right.
record.
No, I understand that. I'm not talking about necessarily the legalities, but just,
Well, I mean, they're aware of it, they've got notice of it, they haven't shown up at any of the meetings.
they had, that's the other, they did get notice of the subdivision.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, Madam Chairman, if I may. So, we talked about that as well today and talked about it with Tom, or,
Okay, good.
and talked about it, is to, what's the difference here by, if they're creating a new road and access versus an already laid out access road that could have been improved by anyone at any time, whether it was in front of us or not.
I understand.
And that they had already anticipated having it be a gravel drive coming in. So just by paving it is not it's not different in substance significantly than.
In addition, actually, I think it's important to note that this could have been a roadway.
Oh, yes.
As wide
No,
as a regular road, and a driveway
agree.
is significantly less
I
intrusive.
understand that. I was just,
No, I understand what you're saying. It's sort of just a good
Yeah, they're
neighborly thing to make sure they know what's going on. Thank you. Did you have any other questions?
no, I did not. I think this is a much better setup.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, as we were pretty close to proving what we had the other time with some bump outs and some railings and things like that, I think this is an excellent solution to what we had there. Yeah, I think with Ernie, I think what I would, when I look at that, I said the Lot B, which the Board of Appeals approved, was to the, let's say, to the west, and that's where I believe the house was going to be on. Now the house is going to be on a split of Lot A, and the original house goes on to Lot B. So I think with the original plan, maybe what your point is that now the neighbors who originally thought the house was going to be past the other houses, now it's going to be right behind them. So if they're not aware that they're going to be very soon, and they'll probably be surprised, because it's different than the plan that was originally presented. And I don't know how that is legally, how you, for the notice, and, if, it doesn't look like anything from the Board of Appeals has to change, but we're kind of rearranging that, and it's definitely affecting the neighbor adjacent to that property in a huge way that the other one wasn't. The only other comment I would have, Madam Chair, is on kind of similar properties I've seen with this, and the issues that go along with it, even with the shared driveway at the bottom, is that the differentiation between that road and the surrounding properties. And I think ultimately what happens is putting a fence right along where that road is, so it is clear demarcation of, here's the road, here's the property, and maybe a nice white vinyl fence that goes on either side of that. And that might leave some of that property, because now you get cars coming in basically to the side and backyard where they haven't had that before, and that tends to get a little emotional.
Right, so you're suggesting a fence on either side of the driveway?
That's what I'm
Maybe like a split rail, something?
I wouldn't even think maybe a white 6-foot picket, because, what they don't want to see is cars coming in their side and backyard.
Oh, and the lights shining into their house, too?
Yeah. So,
Can-
it just blocks right off.
Just off the top of my head, I don't have a problem with the concept.
Yeah.
Could we maybe throw it at the property owners?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
They might prefer something
Yeah,
more quaint
absolutely.
looking
Right.
than
Yep.
a big
Yeah,
structure.
absolutely.
It's
Yep.
there's not going to be a lot of traffic, frankly, it's just going to be a single family.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we can condition it such that there's some sort of fencing and it to be agreed upon by the neighbors.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair.
And
Got it.
We'll work with staff on that.
Thank you.
Thank you to Tom and to the planning staff for this. I think this is an excellent solution compared to what we had before.
Thank you, Bill.
Nope. Sorry.
Joe?
So just a question, and
Last one?
Kristen may have said this, did we talk about putting some sort of barrier so that there's no cut-through?
She did.
Yeah, I talked about boulders,
Boulders and
plantings,
boulders, right, so-
vegetation.
Is that, really, the preference
Yeah.
should be theirs, because it really doesn't matter whether it's a planting or a boulder or a fence or a piece of, guardrail or, wooden guardrail or anything that just prevent the cut-through.
Where
Yeah.
would you propose that?
I have it drafted a little bit in, that they should put it there, but in, what may need to happen is that it just, to have approval by the others that can pass and repass to kind of, not saying totally block it, but just to make it so it's grass, it's not passable, it's not a road.
Right, I think now it's
Right.
lawn,
Right.
so,
Now it's lawn, right, and now, and what you're saying, that you're right, is they all have a right to use it, theoretically, so you really can't, I mean, you can't unilaterally block it.
You can't unless somebody complains.
it would seem to me, if this was scrub land, maybe people could, I find it a little, stuff happens, and late at night with kids, you never know what'll happen, but I can't imagine that somebody would drive across somebody's lawn to try to access the other right-of-way.
Right.
So,
But I think that-
visually, there's no connection, and there is landscape land between this driveway and the end of the other driveway that goes on for about 100 feet.
The point is to deter people from thinking that it's even a possibility. So to try to find ways to do that, and we can condition it to find ways to, but the goal is to make sure that it doesn't look like something you can just.
I mean, even if it
Drive over.
remains
Garden.
grassed. or, you know,
Manicured lawn or something.
Lawn or
Which is what
however.
it is
right.
now, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, you could post it, I suppose, but don't drive on our lawn, but,
Right.
I hope that won't be
If there's a substantial
necessary.
grade difference between the end of one and the end of the other, then people are not likely to,
yeah,
I don't know what the
I'm not sure it's
topography is there.
significantly different.
But we can find ways to.
I think it's fine to
Make
work
sure
that
it's-
out after the fact.
Happy to work with staff on that to address that concern.
No, so I mean, other than that, I think it's a great option. As a matter of fact, the numbering is perfect, right? Because
Yes.
there's 20, what is it, 20?
It's 26 and 30.
26 and 30, this would be 28, I would assume, right? So
Columbia
it's-
Road, right?
it's like it's like they left a spot for it already.
Right.
Great.
And we've conditioned it that it be a Cormier Road address.
Right.
The fire department also requested that it would be a Cormier Road when I spoke with them.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Paul?
No, actually, the Cormier Road entrance to me looks like a driveway for Lot A. Right? Because when Lot A is going
That's
to be
correct.
developed,
That's correct.
I'm sure
That's correct.
that, that'll be their driveway. I'm looking, is that 91.47 the frontage?
Not in that lot.
No, it's not front, that's not the way. Their frontage is back
Still on.
down on Muller Road. That's unchanged from the initial proposal that was approved by the Board of Appeals.
Well, I see Lot A, as I say, that's going to be back before us before too long, I would think, with
If you
what's
look at
going on
the
in Berwick.
larger plan, you can see the whole lot.
This, is there a bigger plan than this?
If you open it up a little bit more.
Open the last lap.
There you go. There's your
Yeah.
frontage.
Frontage is still down here in Millville.
The frontage for Lot A?
Yes.
Lot A is the gray.
This is the lot, see, Paul? Goes down there, they use the frontage down there.
Look at this. It makes
That's,
The Board of Appeals had
that's silly if I may be.
It's a classic
That's-
Frankenstein.
That's bizarre.
That's not an approved road.
So, I don't think we saw this come before, I mean, we talked about interaction between the Board of Appeals and Planning
Yes.
Board.
We sent them a letter prior to approving
Did
it
we?
that we didn't want them to.
Okay, and they still did anyway.
So it says this is 54.22? Is the frontage down here? Or is this
Talked about it
all
here.
frontage?
No, that's the frontage down
This
there.
is the frontage of the lot where they want to build a house.
Right. And that's the frontage for, and the other one is the frontage for the orange lot there.
And so they
That's
got,
not before us right now.
went to the
They-
Board of Appeals and got
The variance,
moved for,
right.
And what's in front of
Before.
you is access,
say what?
and the
Just
access
access is what we're
is,
looking
at.
is really your
The
main
Board of
question
Appeals has
here.
already made that decision.
Right.
So, Madam Chair, I think maybe what we can kind of try to regenerate, now we've got a newer Board of Appeals that's got the
Yes.
connection, because not having other connections, is to, maybe you can go forward and say, when you do things like that, now you get an idea of what the ramifications are,
Yes.
and it's not, that's an easy decision you guys make, but then you come here,
Right.
it's
And
very difficult, so I don't think the Board of Appeals members understand that.
I agree, and it's something actually that Member Kelly and I discussed, talking about perhaps having an educational seminar for the Board of Appeals and the and the Planning Board to attend together to sort of help everyone understand what the different roles are and the rules are. And there's also another item that's on our agenda for later, for us to weigh in with a different matter that's before Board of Appeals that we'll get to later
Excellent.
tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So, Paul, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
just sitting here being
Okay.
amazed.
Jack?
Now, do we have to do an A&R to establish this new piece of the lot? How does that work? This wasn't a part of it
No,
before.
the subdivision's in front of you. You have the right to change any lot lines you want, other than the Board of Appeals is allowed for the,
Okay, so we're just changing lot lines within
under a
subdivision.
subdivision,
That's
you
right, they
can
had to do
move
a
things around.
subdivision because it's, right,
So it's
okay.
access and lot lines is what really is in front of you, or road construction where there is none here. And that's why you have a very long list of waivers. I will, since I have the microphone, the waivers do require 5 votes.
Okay.
So the elevation of the lot, or where the house is going to be built, is higher than where it was going to be built previously? Or is it the same elevation, you know? I'm trying to read this.
By a couple of feet one way or the other, Jeff, but it's
Yeah,
nothing significant.
because, after the last meeting, Bill had mentioned something about how low it was, so I went down there the next afternoon, and I was surprised how low down below the driveway the lot was, but I'm looking at this, it doesn't appear to be that much higher.
It's pretty level, it seems.
The grading on this new area is a lot
Flatter.
flat and gradual than which required a lot
But
more.
relative to
grading.
the level of water in the pond, it's pretty much the same. I just hope that you don't put furnaces and stuff in the cellar that'll get flooded. Almost build it like it was in the wetlands, I mean, in a
You
floodplain.
might not want a cellar. I wouldn't want a cellar in
Yeah.
that location,
But-
but that's your choice.
Yep,
Yeah, but they're even between 190 and 192, you're 4 or 5 feet above, at least, where or on the edge of the pond.
Okay. Jack?
okay, I'm all set, thank you.
May I ask?
Yeah.
So actually, their frontage is there, so they know, what is the total square footage of this lot?
This is
Out of curiosity.
90,
177.
That-
177.
I believe that's one of the larger house lots
Well,
Probably is.
in the town now. Yeah, because you look at this, you say, well, the frontage has to be there, but no, it doesn't. Okay,
Okay.
We can safely
this
meet the
house.
25-foot setback from
yes, yes.
This house, they drive there, but the frontage is here.
yeah.
It's,
All right. It's crazy. We all admit that it's crazy, but it's done. And I think actually, not only was this the best solution, I think it's probably the only solution that was going to get through this board. So again, our thanks to everyone for working so cooperatively together. I think that I don't have any additional questions, and as long as we have all those conditions in and the applicant understands that whatever the Board of Health decides for drainage will have to be implemented and will be in our decision, I think we're ready to proceed.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Tom,
Do you
there's
have
a
any further
question yet.
questions?
Yes.
oh, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Could you use the
Can you come
microphone,
up?
please?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Petro. Will be the owner of the property. We would prefer not to have 6-foot fence on either side of the driveway. We feel it would create some kind of tunnel effect.
Yes.
The direction of the proposed driveway that we're looking at would not create any kind of light effect on any of the houses on the property. The house to the right of the driveway is up a slope. Your lights are gonna hit a bank.
I think the way we're going to condition it is for you to work cooperatively with your neighbor to come up with a solution that works for all of you.
Okay.
So if your neighbors are fine with a split rail fence or no fence, then
No
that's something
fence,
that you all
No
can
fence or
agree to.
vegetation or
This is a-
Bushes.
okay. I just want to make sure that.
We're not dictating a 6-foot fence on either side. We want you to work with your neighbors to make sure everyone's happy. And I'm sure that's what you want to.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Okay.
And you're still gonna plow.
Okay.
Motion made second on the closed public hearing.
Thank you. The motion has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 7-0.
You want a motion?
I do.
Is that 7-0?
6-0.
6-0. Mike's
Sorry,
not voting.
6-0. Thank
Six
you
zero
for the
zero.
reminder.
Motion pursuant to Section 2.5 of the Planning Board Rules and Regulations governing the subdivision of land, and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81-R, the Planning Board hereby considers the following waivers requested by the applicant from the subdivision rules and regulations, including a waiver of full subdivision frontage for the proposed lots A and B, for the plan entitled Definitive Subdivision of Land in Burlington, Mass, Muller Road, submitted by Edward and Yelena. I cannot pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, but I can try and butcher.
I've been saying Ivitskaya, but am I saying it incorrectly?
Ivitskaya sounds.
Ivitskaya, thank you.
Thank you. On January 3rd, 2019, and plan prepared by A.C. Nelson Cartography dated March 1st, 2019, consisting of two
Is that date
sheets.
correct? Where
Two
we just-
sheets, consisting of two sheets,
Further revised.
further revised herein.
Is there a revision date that's?
Further revised herein.
The applicant requests waivers from the following sections of the subdivision rules and regulations as printed.
Do I have a
Have any of
second?
those waivers changed from initially by this layout, or all the same waivers?
I think I got rid of two, but
Okay.
it was because they weren't relevant anymore. I can't remember which two.
There's a lot more to that motion.
And then the motion itself is the middle of page 4.
Right, don't we need to vote on this first
We
motion?
need to vote on the waivers first, right?
We need to vote on this first one, don't we?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Let's move on to the next motion on, in the middle of page 4.
Pursuant to Section 2.4 of the Planning Board Rules and Planning Board Subdivision Rules and Regulations, the Planning Board hereby finds the definitive subdivision plan applications submitted by Edward and Yelena,
Ivitskaya.
thank you, for the creation of one additional building lot to be a complete and proper submission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0.
Okay.
Do you want to give Ernie a break, or are you going to keep going? Go
To
ahead.
approve the definitive subdivision, to approve the definitive subdivision plan entitled Definitive Subdivision of Land in Burlington, Mass, Muller Road, submitted by Edward and Yelena Ivitskaya on January 3rd, 2019, and the plan prepared by A.C. Nelson Cartography dated November 23rd, 2018, revised to March 1st, 2019, and further revised as herein, consisting of one sheet to be revised as conditioned herein, reflecting the creation of one additional building lot subject to the following terms, revisions, and conditions as printed and amended here.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0.
Is it?
All right, I think that is it, correct? All right. Well,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank
You've
you.
been very patient. I know it's been a difficult process, but I think we've arrived at a very good solution. So thanks for working with us.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we do not have minutes. We have some discussion items, and the first one is, we would like to, as the member on the planning board who's on the sculpture park committee, we have 3 new members that I'm going to ask the board to appoint tonight, because we did not have a full committee the last time I was before you. We would like to appoint George Ratkovich, who is representing schools. He's in charge of the art department there. Nick Priest from the Board of Selectmen, and Kevin Sheehan from Recreation, who will be replacing Christine Brown.
All right.
So with the board's permission, I would like to appoint those 3 members to the
Motion-
Sculpture Park Committee.
Motion to appoint the members.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 7-0. Thank you.
Do you have George and Kevin's last name written in front of you? Can you spell it?
I will email that to you.
Okay.
Sheehan, I know how to spell Sheehan, is Sheehan.
Okay, and then George,
Ratkovich, I think it's Ratkovich, but if I will check when I get home and I'll let you know if I'm mistaken.
He's
okay.
from the art department of the school. Is he a Burlington resident?
I do not know, but he's representing the schools.
Okay, he doesn't need to be, as far as I know, a Burlington resident to be on that.
Don't think so. I certainly hope not, because we had a really hard time getting someone to represent from the schools.
Is
And
that
we're
the-
happy he's willing to
He's
do it.
industrial art.
No, is that all of the appointments now, or do you still have?
Yes.
Okay. And I was asking for spelling for Noel.
Oh,
Oh, I
okay.
could find it.
So-
Don was friendly
So-
with it.
You have it now, right?
Okay.
Ratkovich?
It's-
I
it's
gave
an
you Sheehan.
RATKOVICTZ?
Oh, VICZ. Thank you very much.
ITZ, okay,
Make
Thank
Ernie
you, Joe.
pronounce it.
perfect.
Oh, wait, no, correction.
Thank you, and thank you, Noel.
Just email the
It is
page to,
George. It's actually Ratkovich. Okay.
Like to buy a vowel.
Yeah, which is what I originally thought. Okay, good. The other thing I wanted to have the board discuss is an item that is in front of the Board of Appeals, 1 Wheeler Road. Josh is passing something around for all of us. I would like us to discuss this because I think it was important for for our board to weigh in and give some input to the Board of Appeals before they make their decision. This is the property that is currently housing Ski House and Harvey Windows. It's on the corner of Wheeler Road and Middlesex Turnpike. I think everyone is familiar with it. It is going to be, the plan is to have this building will be purchased, torn down, and a new building built, which I think most people would agree would be an improvement, but they are requesting a very large, high tower for signage, which is concerning to me, but I would like to know what the rest of the board thinks.
And do they think that in Burlington, we don't understand the word tenant? No, really? One, two, three, four, five, six, that's,
Well, I
see, I'm
think it's
getting all the
it's
things like that look silly. Why are you gonna put tenant 10 times?
They put that, but it's gonna be the
it
name
would be
of
the
the
names of
business
the
that's
various
there.
tenants.
Okay, I got it, yeah, all right.
So that
Well,
would,
it's-
but
this
that's
is what
to
I'm
your
looking at,
point, they do have
Four stars
ample
called tenant.
opportunity for signage on the side of the building as well for most tenants. And if there are some tenants on the other side who don't have visibility from Middlesex Turnpike or Wheeler Road, I can understand the reason to put some signage perhaps, but I do not think a tower of that height and size makes sense, not to mention the fact that it kind of looks almost unfinished.
it's only 100 and something feet, it's only 70 feet high.
Yeah. So,
Tongue in cheek.
I think the first question that was going to come up is a roof sign allowed in that zone?
So I sat in on a meeting with Mike Murray, the chairman of Board of Appeals, and Andy Ungerson, building inspector, and the applicant was also at the meeting, to understand, because remember Kelly had brought it up, and I had a conversation with Mike Murray before they talked about it at the last meeting, because we didn't have a meeting between then to give comments, and asked some questions just about the site and what the building was, and if it was a roof signs aren't allowed in BG. So it's a little bit of a nuance. So it's a BG, it's not a roof sign if it's on a wall. If it's on, they can't do this. They can't do the scaffolding of, so it's kind of like this tower of sign.
yeah,
This is a roof sign. They can't do this.
okay.
However, if you see the other feature here, this kind of round feature that's integrated as part of the building. So what this is if it was on something like that, which we did discuss, and Michael Murray had mentioned that if it was something more like that, that would be more favorable anyway, and not so high. But what they would need to do at the time they got the sign permits would need to get a variance for a wall sign that's over a foot above the tenant space, the interior tenant space. So this, and that would clearly be higher. And anything up here would be 1 foot above the wall. The variance that they requested, I think this is 73 feet high. The building itself is about 42, which is actually pretty similar to what you're looking at on the original building that includes a parapet. So the building height here is conforming, but this parapet is higher, and they're looking to keep that kind of higher for the building, which we have less of a concern, because it's really kind of a pit. The whole
Yep.
site is a pit. It's really that signage tower just kind of sticking out. Is it a roof sign? The answer is yes. This as shown is a roof sign. If it's integrated into the building structure itself, it is not a roof sign, it's a wall sign, but they need a variance to be over 12 inches above.
No, when you said the height of the building, you said it was 40,
I think it's 40.
is
it
that
on?
at the,
42 or 43, something like that.
is that at these corners that stick up higher, or is that
I mean,
the main
it's
part?
average finished
So
grade.
I think we need to know how high these little round towers stick up on the corners. It's hard to tell from the sign.
Dimensions here, they are, but I can't read it.
Is this
Because-
tower going to be occupied?
Building height is 40.4, and these little towers are, I would say, maybe 1 or 2 feet higher than that, so a lot less than 70.
I would suggest, in the board member, just to sort of get the ball rolling, to my fellow board members, that we weigh in to the Board of Appeals and suggest that they not grant what is being requested here, but if they want to have a third round tower-like structure on the other corner that they put signage on, I would suggest it should be no higher than the other ones that are on the plan already. And then we would have to probably also weigh in as to what the lighting on that signage would be. I don't want to see another sign like we have at Millipore Sigma that can be seen from multiple points throughout the town and from the highways, that it's
In parts
very-
of Lexington.
Yes, it's extremely intense with changing lights, and it's very, very bright, and we need to make sure that that does not ever happen again.
They'll
So
come
I'd like,
before us for that condition anyway, right?
No,
Building,
they go to the Board of Appeals.
for the building itself?
new building.
Oh, for the building itself?
Oh, no, the
Yes, but
building-
somehow building,
If
Millipore,
this is approved, it would come to us for a site plan
Site plan.
after
for a
that.
site plan, but I'm just worried about if one of these 3 round towers is just for signage, we want to make sure that that signage is not overly bright, intense, or changing in color.
Well, Board of
That is
Appeals
something-
has a general rule that they not be more than 90 lumens
Right.
total.
Well, somehow Millipore Sigma ended, we have
Well,
it.
that
and
was- they did.
Would you
Sigma
like
got
us to
away with all
send,
sorts of stuff.
include our lighting, our standard lighting condition?
Yes,
To say
please.
we'd like to
Yep,
meet
that'd be
those?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So that's what I'm suggesting, and I'd like my fellow board members to react to that suggestion.
I think that's why they're round, so that they can have a traveling light.
Right.
Probably. Don't even say it, Ernie. Don't give them ideas.
No.
Thinking back to the Board of Appeals meeting, will they have to file a new application and advertise again? Will this be substantially changed from what they originally advertised?
They need to change, they can't proceed with this sign tower. They need to change that into a building structure
It's a different
tower.
application, sounds like.
So will they have to re-advertise?
No, because there are variances for height and for, they're slightly increasing impervious surface, so height and impervious surface. For the sign variance and the foot above the tenant space and those things, they can do that at the time they go get the signs.
How about
So they have not advertised for that yet? They have not applied for the sign variance yet?
Right, I mean, one of the comments that Michael Murray had meant, saying, we're not even talking about these, you're asking for a height variance for a structure of something, not this tower of signage. Signage is a separate permit under a sign permit.
I have a
The
question.
proponent, when he was speaking, indicated that there was nothing inside the tower. I don't know if that's the case here. They weren't even going to be putting mechanicals. He admitted it was nothing more than a
Right.
Right.
structure
So they
on
need
which to put signs.
They need to redesign it as a building feature in order for
So
them
if
to
it's,
proceed.
if it's completely empty and above the rest of the grade,
It's a
is it
sign.
part of the building?
If it's this,
nothing in it?
if it's this is a roof sign. If it's part of say it's a tower and there's nothing really in the tower, but it's a tower part of the building,
Yeah.
they could put signs on that. But this is literally a scaffolding of signs. This is a roof sign.
So are they proposing, do you know, with this iteration, a glass tower that would be illuminated from inside?
What was discussed was trying to create a feature that either was the same as the other
corner
towers that
features.
they're proposing, same height or different, but something more similar, so it's integrated into the building for the next meeting.
But we don't know whether or not it's going to be glass and internally illuminated.
No, I don't know at this point.
Yeah.
I'm just, I was kind of sitting in for this meeting knowing that,
Kristen, one of
you
the other
guys would-
things you said is that they're looking for an increase in impervious surface. They don't go to the Board of Appeals for that, though.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
so right now they are like 50.58.
Foot to
So
far.
58%, so no, it's impervious surface in this district, you can have up to 60% impervious on your site. They have 58% impervious. They want to go to 62, I think. So it's a sliding, that would need a variance because it's over 60. Because we have a
Okay.
60/40
I
split.
personally would not be in favor of that, and if they're going to grant it, I think that we would need to get something in return, like lots of trees and wonderful landscaping. There has to be some give. I don't see why we would go into, this site is, there's hardly any impervious surface,
It's conforming now. I
at
mean,
all,
it should
so I
have-
certainly don't think we should make it worse.
Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably one of the sites in Burlington that is turned over many,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
many
Yes.
times.
Remember
Because
when,
nobody can,
yeah.
there's no visibility and nobody can really.
Yeah,
Right,
the
and this is a
Chinese
vast
restaurant
improvement.
was gonna,
Yeah, Fuddruckers was in there, Chinese
Shabbos Pier
restaurant.
before that?
This is a vast improvement, but I do think that while we're doing this, I mean, I don't see the reason why we would increase the impervious surface. And if that is what they're looking for, then I think they need to come back with a plan that makes it very attractive, so that, and they can find ways to do that with landscaping and trees and other things, and it would make the whole,
Sure.
the whole site more attractive.
Madam
I
Chair,
certainly would not want the Board of Appeals to grant that without getting any assurances in return.
Not without stormwater
there's
improvements.
precedent along 95, because all of those buildings that are on Blanchard Road and back up to 95 wanted big signs and
Right.
so forth. And we said, we don't want no big signs along there, along 95. There's trees and so forth, and it's one of the few areas on 95, that doesn't have signs all over. So we've been attentive to not allowing a lot of signage and so forth along there. And I think, that could be part of their, part of their decision-making
Yes,
process.
excellent point.
Yeah, and we could remind them of that.
So just in terms of, I just would like to know if the rest of the board members are in agreement that we want to convey to the Board of Appeals that we do not think that obviously it has to be part of the building, but whatever they do, whether it's exactly like these other corner units or if it's slightly different, it should be no higher than what we're seeing here, which is probably just, and we should find out what it is. It looks like maybe
Yeah, a
2
couple
feet
feet.
higher. It should be no higher than that. And then they have to abide by the rules that we have for lighting and signage. And I would also put in some cautionary language about the increase in impervious surface.
Yeah, I have that.
Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add, or does anyone want to argue any of those points with me? Because
Are
that's
you
just my
saying,
opinion.
Barbara, that you're talking, you don't want the entire building, including the towers, substantially taller than what's there now?
No, what I'm saying, it's pretty much the same thing, but what I'm saying is when you look at this, they have these round towers on 2 of the corners. And I don't think whatever they put on that other corner where they currently have the sign tower, whatever goes there should be no higher than these other 2 corner pieces of the building. I don't know what you'd call those towers. They're small towers. They should be no higher than those. I don't want it sticking up above.
Yeah. I don't know what they were thinking of when
I
they
can't
put
tell
that
from
big
this what the height of the tower is.
Neither can I, and that was one of the questions I had.
It's pretty tall.
This one, we know the height of, they asked for it, but we don't know the height of these other two
These are high figures.
mini
Tell us
towers.
from the Tower of Tenants.
The
That's
towering
elevation
tenants.
The
211
tenant tower.
211 feet.
It's not two, that's,
No, can't be.
Can't
that's
read it.
211, like,
I'm sorry. Bill, did you have a question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. In this district, is a kind of a monument sign or something, instead of they saying they got to put it out with the tenants that you can't see from Middlesex Turnpike, is there an ability to put a monument sign out there instead of, roof signs or signs above? Is that allowed in that district?
Staff?
I'm sorry, I was trying to figure out how high.
Bill had a question as to whether or not a monument sign would be allowed here instead of something on the building.
PG is not allowed in.
Directory sign?
A monument sign is,
Those directory signs, the ones down in the next plaza, that's grandfathered, right? That wouldn't be allowed
Middlesex
today.
Mall?
The Middlesex Mall would not be allowed today.
yeah, you're right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, if you remember, Crossroads was looking to do a monument
Right.
sign, and they were saying, look, Middlesex Commons has it and the mall have it.
Right.
Those are all grandfathered
Right.
signs
Right.
at this point.
And the only other thing, it looks like there's a feather sign out in front of Ecca Donuts.
I will say that the property owner was, he said, look, I have a building in a hole, and I have 2 levels. The first level people can see. The bottom level that you come in from Wheeler Road, nobody
Can't see.
knows what's
And I
there.
understand the need.
So he's just looking
Yes.
at, how can I get more visibility? And we talked about some different things, and, if you have a multi-tenant building, obviously you need more but if you have, it's only a 22,000 square foot building.
Right.
If a single tenant, do you need as much signage, destination tenants? So just kind of looking at kind of different options to.
I think it can be accomplished. I mean, the building looks infinitely more attractive from what we can see here than what is currently there.
Then, wait,
It's a significant
does someone have the
improvement.
first page, the current sign?
Oh,
That's just a
yes,
sign?
I know.
The turquoise sign?
But I do think it could be further improved with some landscaping and trees and,
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna do a lot of earth filling anyway, so they should be able to do some landscaping.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, half the problem with these towers like that, on top, you're on a ramp. You should be paying attention to the ramp, not reading, 10 names on the sign. So, maybe a number, a building number or something that, would help, most people that are getting off the highway to go there are probably already have it as a destination, right? They
You
know
could
they're
have a
going
sign,
to
I
this
think,
place,
that would
so.
say like One Wheeler Road.
Right.
And have a
Yes.
big
Right.
sign.
Yes.
so-
And honestly, I mean, the building is not that large, and you can see here, you could clearly
Right.
put at least 7
Yeah.
good-sized tenant signs, 8 if you put one on this tower, 9 if you put one on the other tower. There's plenty of room for signage. How many different businesses could go in that one building? It's not that large.
Well, that has been referred to. I don't want to insult the property owner, but we called that the dead zone at one time because everything that went in there failed.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, this is a
and
big
the-
change, though.
The people in the Chinese restaurant, we warned them. We said, and they were so confident. They said, no, we're going to really have a great restaurant. We're going to be very successful. And I don't know, did it last 2 years?
I don't think it lasted very long at all.
No.
Well, you know what, I think
And-
we all are
and he's right.
familiar.
It's down the hole.
Yes, and we're all familiar with the many businesses that have gone there and then gone away, but this is a vastly different building. And I think it's much
No.
improved, and I hope they're successful.
I'll bet if there was a vote that we wished it was successful, it would be 7-0. We hope it works.
right, so-
They're also gonna have
I
to
will
deal
add
with.
that to the letter.
With the conservation, because Vine Brook goes right there,
Tone that down a little bit.
yeah.
So, does
No
anyone
matter
else have any?
how pretty the building, it's ugly if it's empty.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else any board member would like to add? I know staff will work on a letter, which I would like to see, and other staff members
They
probably
meet next
should all
Tuesday,
see.
so we'll probably send you a draft. I mean, no, we'll send you, I can do tomorrow, I can send you
Okay.
a draft of the language. It's not gonna be in the fancy letterhead probably,
Okay,
but I can
that's fine.
send you the bullet points of what we're gonna put in the
That's fine.
draft.
And
I'm not speaking
will you send it to the entire board, or did
Yeah.
you? Okay.
LBCC.
That would be great. Is there anything else anyone wants to add? Okay. So do we need to vote on that?
No.
No. Okay, very good.
Just remember only to reply to Kristen, so that when you don't start.
That's right.
Well, just so we don't run
BCC.
into a problem at the
BCC.
last minute, we're authorizing the chair to approve what
The final
Kristen
version.
does.
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, 7-0, thank you. Does anyone have any other items they want to discuss tonight?
What's the
Do we
score?
know what the score is yet?
I have no idea.
They're about 5 minutes into the game, I hope.
Joe's going to bring it right up.
So I think probably the best way to find out the score would be for
Pretty
someone to make
aggressive.
a
That's
motion
pretty-
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's
Pretty
7-0.
aggressive.
Thank you, everyone.
You may hold the record.
Pretty